week on Prepping 2.0.
Growing up behind the Iron Curtain and escaping.
I was born in a cage and I grew up in a cage, somewhat on my knees. I had an opportunity given me by God to escape that cage. But you guys were born free here, but you allow the cage to be built bar by bar, slowly around you.
When disaster strikes, will you be prepared? This is Prepping 2.0 with authors and prepping experts Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher.
Online at prepping2-0.com.
Get ready. Prepping 2.0 coming in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everyone, to Prepping 2.0. This is one of your hosts today, Shelby Gallagher, and I'm joined by my partner on the show and partner in life, Glenn Tate. Good morning, Glenn.
Hello. Good morning, Shelby. We have a great show. We always start with the top 100. Why don't you hit that first?
I will. The top 100 is a great list. It's the top 100 things that disappear the quickest in a collapse. You can find it on our website at prepping2-0.com. We're at number 91.
Geez, we're almost getting to 100.
We're getting to 100. And this is a favorite of mine, although not quite a favorite. Number 91 is teas. T-E-A-S. Teas as in tea bags, brewed tea, chai tea. To me, I see that word and I think a delivery system for caffeine.
Yes, it has other uses, like if the water isn't terribly tasty, it's a way, and people have been doing it all over the world for
That's why it was invented,
centuries.
actually.
Exactly. To drink water, look at Afghanistan. There's always, they're drinking tea. Vietnam, drinking tea.
Take the
all over
out
Europe.
Of the water.
Yeah, take the yuck out of the water.
And add a little zing to your bloodstream. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's all good, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. It's easy to store. It doesn't spoil.
Yep, it lasts forever if you keep it in an airtight container.
Good bartering item, too.
Good bartering item, absolutely.
I wanted to mention two things. Lurkers come out of the shadows.
This has been fun.
And that is lurkers. If you've been listening to the radio show and the internet show, which is available on, YouTube and Rumble and all over the place, but you're not a Patreon, you keep hearing about this cool after show, and you keep hearing things like in this show, for example, we have Patreon questions that Patreons asked our guest, who will be coming up in a moment. And so there's all this cool stuff for being a Patreon. There's going to be thumb drives being mailed out in the month of January with all the shows from the previous year if you're a $5 and up Patreon. So there's all this stuff. And you think to yourself, gee, I don't know what this is about. I'm lurking in the shadows. Well, come out of the shadows, become a Patreon, go to prepping2-0.com. There's a big red button. The upper right thing says become a Patreon. $2 a month. Super easy to do. So we encourage that. And part of the lurker message is the video bonus show message that I have for you, the VBSs, as we call them here. And for $5 and up Patreons, those are, as the name implies, video bonus shows. Not
Vacation Bible School.
No, it's not that. And these are videos. We do a variety of ways. Sometimes it's Shelby and I sitting at our computers. It is also the KHNC show that we do on 1360 AM in Denver. And it is also product reviews, how-tos. We did it for like 2 weeks. We started filming them, 11 VBSs. So there's a VBS probably every 3 days or something like that. So a lot of really good content. And then we have guests and topics, but really guests that are only on the VBSs. And so there's a ton of stuff. I highly recommend it, and it's $5 a month. And if you're a $2 Patreon, go ahead and upgrade to $5 and get all the cool stuff. You're going to love it. A lot of folks have. Several hundred of you have in the past couple of weeks, by the way. Yes, it's been
fun. I will add this too. We will, on our VBSs, we have allowed ourselves the ability to branch out a little bit beyond prepping. Prepping 2.0 is, we definitely try to keep the topic on prepping and how all roads lead to prepping. But this is kind of the second or third tier to prepping when you think about our VBSs. So just so you know, you're going to get a broader range of topics too. So that's kind of cool.
Exactly. So, Shelby, what do you have?
Want to talk about one of our great sponsors. Love these folks, and I always like to mix up the list. We have a whole list of them in front of us. Minutemen Coffee. Love these guys. Love these guys. One, because they have put up with a lot from social media these days in terms of getting banned and all of. Anyway, so the best way to reach them and place an order of their awesome. Coffee is go to our website, prepping2-0.com. Click over on Friends and Affiliates. You'll see a graphic there. Click on the graphic. Check out our I Miss America blend. I'm not kidding. It's one of my favorites. It's a nice, rich, it's a dark roast that doesn't give you a headache and leave a bitter taste in your mouth. It's really awesome. Use the code.
You don't need a Narcan shot to come out of it. Let's put it that way.
There you go. And if you use the code I Miss America at checkout, you get 15% off your entire order, which is great this time of year. So great gift item too.
Well, let's head straight into our guest. Our guest is Leszek, and he grew up in Poland. He'll describe that more. Communist Poland, back when it was communist, and came to America and has a variety of observations. He was also 299 readers / listeners, one of the colonels in the 299 Days book series in book 10. There's a colonel that has his name, Leszek, and his last name, and go ahead and read it. And it's all about the differences or maybe similarities between communism and a socialist America. So I highly recommend it. So, Colonel, honorary Colonel, welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. My name is Leszek Tahira, and I did grow up in Poland.
Yeah, and sorry.
And welcome to the show. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And you grew up in Poland. When were you born, and when did you leave? I want to let people know this was Soviet-era Poland, not the current Poland.
Yes, I was born during actually Cold War. My parents squeezed me into 1960s. Last year of 1960, so 1969, good year. Beatles were playing, and somebody landed on the moon. There was also some tough things going on, Vietnam War and Cold War for sure.
Invasion of Czechoslovakia.
My life on one side of the Iron Curtain, and Yo Fox's life on the other side. Before we met up here. Years later.
How did you escape?
So that's kind of a long story. I don't think we have enough time on the show, but my escape from Poland. My escape happened the same year as Poland gained its independence from communism. Mm-hmm. Not knowing that will happen, I was 19 years old, and a few factors drove me to make a decision to leave Poland. And in January of 1990, I boarded a train. That's just as short of the story as I can tell you. I boarded the train that was I was supposed to go on the 7-day trip to Vienna, Austria. And I chose that country with a friend of mine from school that we were attending at that time. We chose that country because during communism, you had to have two passports. One was for all the Eastern Bloc countries or anything on the Soviet side of the Iron Curtain, which was really easily attainable. But second passport was for all other countries, meaning all the Western world countries. And that one was a little tricky to get. But it was tricky for us. It was really tricky for me, but I did get that passport, and we bought this little getaway to Vienna for a week. Because Vienna did not require, or Austria did not require a visa from Polish citizens to come to visit. So we did that, and our intention was not to come back to Poland. Our intention was to bounce off of Austria and continue on to Greece and try to immigrate from there, which kind of took a couple of years before I was able to make my way to Canada. The actual process of escaping was a little bit tricky. There's a lot of stories there, but with a lot of help from, I believe, God, we were able to get out. And once we were on the other side of the Polish border, we're jumping up and down. Just imagine two 19-year-old kids, with no money and a couple bags to each name, just taking off on a crazy adventure.
Wow. Yeah, it's obviously God and Bóg Boga, конечно. So what was life like in communist Poland? Because this is what is so, I think, fascinating for our listeners. They know in general that it was bleak and everything, but when we spoke, and it was several years ago, we reconnected recently. Thank goodness. Thank you, by the way, for reaching out to me. That was great. But, the little stories, the everyday life stories, what was it like in communist Poland? Because later in a few minutes, we're going to be asking similarities, between communist Poland and what the U.S. might be shaping up as. So life in communist Poland, and be sure and tell all kinds of stories, because that's what folks are wanting to hear.
Yeah. So for those who have never been outside of U.S., then it would be probably hard to imagine that world. It was different in many aspects. One of them was, to me, as a teenager growing up in communism, the biggest thing that I always noticed was the struggle to have not always having all the necessities. Along lines, when I was in my early teens, that's when in the 80s there was a big crisis as far as just goods, not having goods. For my sister and I, the only times we might have eaten oranges was at Christmas time. That was the only time where government, dumped some into the stores, and if my mom was at the right place at the right time and was able to buy some, we had some oranges in our Christmas gifts. That was something that here we just take so for granted, because we can just go to the store and pick up anything. Kiwi. I never had a kiwi when I was in Poland. You knew what kind of fruit that was. But even those things did not come from Western world. Like oranges came from Cuba, and some people don't want to offend anybody, but they were called Fidel's balls because they didn't even taste like oranges that we taste here. So that was one big difference that I've noticed all the time, just lack of things. If I wanted something, I could not just have it. My parents didn't have. They had money for necessities, but they didn't have money for additional things. So that's why a lot of people resolved to side hustle, whatever they could come up with. My life as a kid was watching my dad. My dad was an electrician. He worked for one of the local companies that manufactured light bulbs and things like that. And then later on, he worked for the city as an inspector, electrical inspector. But I saw my dad build a house for us with his own hands. Because it was, you and I, we can go and, whether we use credit or we have money on hand, we can go and either rent or buy a place. In Poland, you cannot just go and buy a house or go and buy an apartment. You had to apply for apartment and wait. And if you were assigned an apartment, you could then go and purchase it, and you would pay mortgage, just like we do here, to pay that off. Same with cars, same with anything. Like if you wanted a washer and dryer, you just didn't have it in a store. They would have maybe one or two sets of them in the store, but one would be just a display, and the second would be assigned to somebody who was waiting for it for months or years to get it. It was crazy. Like we don't know this world, that kind of world here. We are so in a way spoiled. It's incredible.
Well, and if I can ask you, Les, kind of going back a little bit, when you took that trip to Vienna, did your family know? And how do you still have families still in Poland now?
Mm-hmm. Good question. Most of my family, my immediate family knew that I was leaving. I could not tell my friends. I was just afraid because back then, military service was mandatory. So if you turned 18 and you were not in school anymore, you were automatically being drafted to serve in the military for 2 years. And since I continue my post-secondary education, my military service was deferred. However, schools were obligated to inform military draft office if somebody left school, like if you dropped out of school, they would inform the draft office, and they would come and get you.
Yeah.
Because they wanted monkeys to do work for them.
Yeah.
So I could not tell anybody. Also, if somebody found out, it's like, friends are friends, but if somebody by mistake said something and I was caught that in Poland, being still in Poland, that I was planning to leave and not come back, then I would be in prison.
Mm-hmm. For a long time, right?
For a long time. Yeah, I don't know how long, but not really. I mean, like, Poland was still under Russian rule. Russia never left after World War II.
Right.
The Russian influence was there, and there were cities in Poland that Polish people could not enter. They were staffed by Russian military, and they I don't know if they still deny it, but they denied it at the time that nuclear weapons were stationed in Poland. Because they were preparing for invasion of Western Europe. And Poland was just a kind of springboard for it.
So when you escaped, and at some point the authorities knew you hadn't come back, did your parents get in trouble, or did the freedom in 1990 mean that your parents got lucky?
Yeah, so 1990, the first free election comes to play, and Solidarność, and the leader of Solidarność, Lech Wałęsa, won that election. He became head of the country, and basically, a few months later, we saw, and the whole world saw, Berlin Wall starting getting chipped apart. That's where, that's when you saw communist influence crumble in Eastern Europe. My parents, yet that did not change my situation with the military, because you are subject to military draft till you're 28. Usually at 28, you would go into reserve. And I obviously wasn't at that age. So till I was 28, and I was long gone from Poland. By then I was a Canadian citizen. Till I was 28, my parents would get, every month, they would get a summons from military for me to report to military office. And also they would get a letter, where is your son and when is he coming back? That kind of stuff. So they weren't harassed, but they were being poked all the time about that. Till I turned 28, and that kind of faded away.
So are they still in Poland now? Or I'm not sure if they're still alive, but did they remain in Poland? Did they ever Did they ever leave?
Yes, they are. My parents, I'm sorry, they're still alive. They're in their early 70s. And they live in same town, Gallup, Alaska. That's about 40 kilometers, which is 25 miles west of, back then, Polish-Russian border. Nowadays, Polish-Belarus border. So
Wow.
it's really close to what it used to be, Russia. Pre-World War II, that was central Poland. You still had a lot of ways to go east before you left Poland. But that changed after World War II. So my parents are still there. I still have a brother there, and I do have a sister who married an American serviceman, and she immigrated to U.S. later on. She lives in Colorado.
So it sounds like, and we have a few more minutes, and then segment 1 will be winding up, and we'll be going to segment 2. But it sounds like with Lech Walesa becoming the president, yes, the military might have been sending you. It was the free Polish military. I mean, it was a military of a free Poland, but it was still a draft law, and you still had to report. But it's not as if the Lech Walesa 1990 and on Polish government was going to do what the what was his name, Jaruzelski, the Zomo, the Polish puppet bad guy from the 1980s. I mean, if he were president, your parents would have been in big trouble. I mean, would your dad have lost his job and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I remember when I turned 18, that was a year before I left, and we had to go and vote for something. I don't remember what, but we had to go and vote in supposedly in elections, but there was no election. There were no parties.
Yeah.
Back then, it was just one party, and just as a note, Poland was a country of two nations. One was all the party people, all the people that were involved in running the country, the government, the communist government, and the citizens. And they lived together, but they didn't go by the same rules. I mean, I see it more and more, happening here in the U.S. as well. I always say to my friends, we are a nation within nation. There's a nation of U.S. government, and there's a nation of American people. But maybe I'm just going off to a different segment that you wanted to do.
Oh, no, that's okay. This is fascinating to listen to, Les. We so appreciate you kind of going down memory lane with us. Yeah, and we're gonna not start you on another story before we go into our break, but and that's where we'll kind of pick this up. So kind of get your brain juices going. When we come back, we're going to talk about what are the similarities that you saw being under communist regime, under communist control, and this, what is this now, almost 30 years ago, right, and that you're seeing now happening, especially now happening as we get ready to bring in a new president, as we record this, we don't know who our president is at this point from the election, and similarities you see. So I'm going to leave you with that thought, and we're going to catch up with everybody on the other side of the break. Don't go away.
More Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher is coming right up. Hear all our previous shows free online at prepping2-0.com.
Abe Lincoln here. In 1773, patriots broke the chains of British tyranny by throwing tea into Boston Harbor. On that day, Americans began drinking coffee. We celebrate that event daily here at Minutemen Coffee. All men are created equal. Coffee is not. Minutemen Coffee is roasted to perfection in small batches. Bold, smooth, and never bitter. Shipped to you fresh daily. Whole bean, ground, or our patented pods. www.minutemencoffee.com.
Preppingnet, where preppers unite. Looking to meet other like-minded people in your area? Looking to start your own prepper group? Already have a group? Join Preppingnet.com. Preppingnet has gathered the biggest names in the industry to help unite preppers everywhere. Join John Jacob Schmidt, Scott Hunt, Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy, Glenn Tate, Shelby Gallagher, Charlie Hogwood, Samuel Culper, Survivor Jane, Rick Austin, Franklin Horton, Ryan Mitchell, and Brian Duff. Our team is united. Check us out at Preppingnet.com. Preppingnet, where preppers unite. Preppingnet.com.
Shelby Gallagher here. We found that you need to layer your food preps.
Yeah, this is Glenn Tate here. A lot of times the hardest part of layering is the long-term foods. We love Numana foods, which have a 25-year shelf life and are non-GMO. Also, organic meals are available.
Numana comes in family-style portions and in bulk. This is not backpacking food. It's family meals that last for at least 25 years. The perfect freeze-dried part of your food layering.
You can get a sample of Numana meals for $19.95 and see for yourself. You will be amazed.
Prepping 2.0 listeners get a 10% discount by entering the code PREP.
Go to Numana.com or click the link on the Prepping 2.0 website.
Give it a try. Numana.com. That is Numana.com.
When the grid goes down, darkness will descend fast. Used to be there was nothing you could do about an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, or CME, coronal mass ejection. Now you can protect your electronics, protect your family, thanks to EMP Shield. EMP Shield invented a simple-to-install device that prevents whatever's connected to it from frying in an EMP or CME, and it costs just a few $100s. EMP Shield has been tested by independent laboratories and passed muster with the government, which has ordered lots of them. Google EMP Shield and see for yourself. And save some money. Get a $50 discount per device. Go to prepping2-0.com. Click on the Friends and Affiliates page, then click on the EMP Shield logo. At checkout, use coupon code PREPPING 2.0. It's all one word.
Prepping 2.0 is about that next level of prepping. One of the key 2.0 items to have is bulletproof body armor plates. I used to think body armor was too tactical for a regular guy like me, but it isn't. Give yourself, your family, and your team an unfair advantage when bullets are flying. Body armor used to be expensive and hard to get. Not anymore. KD Armor, and that stands for Come and Take It, makes solid and affordable body armor for normal people. Get body armor while you can. The clowns in Congress are trying to prohibit future sales. KD Armor is the place to get it. CATI Armor.com. Prepping 2.0 listeners get a 10% discount when you use the coupon code GRANT.
Now, more of Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Shelby Gallagher over at Prepping 2.0. We're the second half, and we've been talking with Leszek, who is a refugee from communism, grew up in Poland. And one of the questions we wanted to ask you, Les, and I'm just going to be so intrigued to hear your answer, as the current events that are happening around us right now in the United States, what similarities do you see between your experience in Poland and being under communist rule and control, and I'm going to say the word oppression, and the U.S. now?
Yeah, there's so many to list, but what I remember from my childhood is, and what I see today, turning on the TV, is one set of information coming from one source, like mainstream media, and another set of information coming from independent sources, like my friends, people that I know and trust, or some independent, I would say maybe unspoiled sources. They don't have a backing of specific interest groups and stuff like that. So today, I will turn on TV and see, and being a little bit older and understanding a little bit of history and social arrangements, I see mainstream media blatantly lying to us. And then I would have to go and see what other people that are maybe in the same area are reporting, and then combining or contrasting the information and coming up with my own view of it. that reminded me of seeing my dad, reading a newspaper, which was a government newspaper. No, there were no independent sources in Poland during communism. All media, whether it was written as like a newspaper or radio or TV, was always only sponsored by the government. So he would watch the news. He would read the newspaper, and then in the evening, when the radio waves were favorable, he would pull out the radio and tune it to Radio Free Europe or Voice of America, and listen to the information from those sources to get the truth, because the truth is usually lies in between, as we say. And yet keep his sanity that way. And I think we as Americans, because I did take an oath to become a citizen last year.
Excellent. Very cool.
Congratulations.
Very happy about that. And I waited. Could have done it many years ago, but I waited till we had a somewhat decent president.
Yeah.
To do it.
It's been kind of dicey since you got here. I got to admit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, to keep my sanity, I have to do the same thing. I can't just, if I listen to what mainstream media says, it would brainwash me like in no time. You have to, as a thinking individual, you have to look at all the information, take a step back, take a deep breath, process it, and then make up your own decision about what's going on. I think that's the only thing that can keep us sane and on maybe somewhat on the level that will help us survive what I think the times that are ahead of us.
Well, and you mentioned in Poland that there were consequences for doing what the government didn't want. So here's a question for you. It seems to me that in Poland, back in the communist era, you got in big trouble and not necessarily hauled off to prison, but I mean, you might lose your job. You might, there might be social pressure. But anyway, back in communist Poland, if you said particular things, thought particular things, made a particular joke, bad things would happen. Do you see that now in America, where if you use the wrong word or you say something bad will happen? Maybe your Facebook account gets shut down for a while, or maybe you lose your job if you work in a big corporation.
Lose your job, lose your bank account.
Yeah, I mean, is it now? And that may not apply to you because where you live, and given the patriot that you are, you may not have to worry about these things. But I mean, do people have to look over their shoulder in the United States like they had to look over their shoulder in Poland?
Yeah, I think we have to more and more. As I always tell people that I meet here, and they ask me, where are you from? Because they can still, obviously, I'm not trying to lose my accent, but sometimes it kind of blends into different things, and people guess where I'm from, And if I tell them, oh, I'm from Australia or Ireland, they just take it at face value. But I tell people, I grew up in a cage. I was born in a cage and I grew up in a cage, somewhat on my knees. And I had an opportunity given me by God to escape that cage. But you guys were born free here. But you allow the cage to be built bar by bar, slowly around you. And it's a gradual process. It doesn't happen in a day. It has not happened in a day. 30 years that I've been on this side of the world. It wasn't like this 30 years ago in Canada.
No.
You could speak out your mind. Nowadays, and I've been gone from Canada for a few years since I immigrated to U.S. And just for the listeners, I married an American citizen. My wife is an American, so we decided to stay here. Since that transition time between Canada back then and now, if you and I'm not, I'm not a person that is politically correct. I don't really care. To me, if you say something and it doesn't physically hurt me, it's not okay. There's one thing to be tactful and one thing to be offensive or just vulgar. If you call somebody gay, okay, that's what you are. If you call me a Pollock, I'm not going to get offended. That's what I am, But now today, if you call somebody gay in Canada, you can be fined or arrested for just saying that. Which is your freedom of speech has been depressed since I've lived there, and similar things are happening here in the U.S. Since I've lived here for past. Just think, 1995, I came here to serve a mission for my church and lived a couple of years and back in Canada and back to the U.S. for school. So, over 15 years that I've been here, a lot of changes, like your the freedom of speech. You have to, in a way, it's not that they're going to haul you off to Gulag for it, but, example, when Barack Obama was at the head of government here, I worked for the company as a company's rep for my wife and I. We were working for one of the companies manufacturing skydiving equipment, and we were their marketing team on the road throughout U.S. And if I said something that I didn't like that guy was doing, and I'm not political. Like I don't have affiliation. I don't really care for either side. I care about people taking care of people. And I just don't believe, and I'm not talking about, talking about Donald Trump if we go into politics. To me, that guy I actually voted for Trump. I voted for Trump not because I like Republicans. I voted for Trump because he was, and I still believe he's a disruptor to the system that oppresses people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he steers it up, and more somebody steers it up, more they take their attention off of us, the commoners, and they have to deal with him. And that gives us a little bit of a breathing space. That's what solidarity was in Poland to communist government. They stirred up the pot, so they took up pressure off the commoners, and they went after them.
Yeah.
I think that's the comparison I can do with Donald Trump, and that's why I voted. It's not because he's a great person or a savior. It's because he throws monkey wrench into the system right. That it's not helping the common person.
So let me stop you right there. I'm going to jump in and just take a quick pause so you can take a breath and give a quick recognition and shout out to some of our great sponsors. Katie Armor. Go check them out. They create body armor for the commoner, to borrow a phrase. It's affordable. If you use the coupon code GRANT, think 299 days at checkout, you get 10% off. Also, EMP Shield. They're kind of fun. Yeah. They have a device that will either fit on your home or your car, protects you from an EMP, electromagnetic pulse. You can find them at our website, prepping2-0.com, under the Friends and Affiliates page. Use the coupon code prepping2.0 and you get $50 off your order, which is kind of a big deal. Per device, which is a great deal. We got a couple more sponsors, but I want to keep going with Les here. So Les, you were talking about how you're feeling that the pressure on the commoner and how you voted for Trump because he took the heat and took it off of us, which is, I think, an interesting analogy, not an analogy, but an interesting angle is a better way to say it. So what do you, and again, as we record this, we don't know. The Electoral College has not made a decision. What do you see happening if we have a Joe Biden presidency?
So I did vote for Trump because I wanted the monkey wrench being in the system. I do not believe in either side. I believe, and I don't know if we want to go that route right now, talking about this, but I believe that U.S. government, both sides, are an exhibition team to entertain the rest of the people. They do their own thing. They live their lives. They have their own rules, which we can't go by. We're not allowed to, or if we tried, it doesn't end well for you and I. And they run this country. We're just I don't know, little cells
we're
in
subjects.
the system, being used. But going back to really quickly, going back to freedom of speech. So my wife and I, we were on the road when Obama was in charge, and I said something on Facebook in my own account, my personal account, it expressed my opinion. And then I got an email from my boss, basically telling me not to do those things and not to express my opinions about, in my own private account. It wasn't even company's account, about, sitting president. Because he had complaints from somebody out there that didn't like it. So in a free country where the, First Amendment's supposed to be a First Amendment, that was my first kind of, cold water in the face, going, really? In America? You're going to tell me this? And but then today, look at the, 5-10 years later, where are we at? You can't. We are so far gone because being politically correct, or it's so, you have to be so sensitive to everybody's feelings that it's just.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's really, as I'm listening to you talk, Les, the phrase that goes through my mind, and I feel like you're about ready to say it, but you don't quite, is I miss America.
Yep.
I miss America.
Yeah.
And I keep telling people, you're going to give this country away. I believe this country was set up by God in a way that people could be free and could have freedom. And obviously, if there is God, there is evil. And I think evil hates America. And doesn't want, because America is about freedom. We all are about freedom. Every single person. I don't care what your political affiliation is or your feelings about anything. We are all born to be free, and we are wired to be free. If we weren't so, I would never left Poland, but we all gravitate to freedom. We want to be free unless we are conditioned otherwise. And I think political system and media and educational system here conditions people to be more dependent on that system rather than to think for themselves and be free. And I see it in younger people.
It's sad.
We're just giving it away. Things that people fought for and that people sacrificed for and struggle for, to us has no value. To us, meaning, I'm not saying you and I'm talking about general society. It has no value anymore. And it's really sad, because when you take freedoms away, you start limiting your options. Limit your options in life. And you wake up one day and the bars on the cage are completed and you are in communist Poland. I don't care if you're going to call it progressive or socialist. It's still the same. Same system, just different label.
Like a cage is a cage, no matter what shape it is, right?
Well, Les, I wanted to pick up on a topic that I think would be of interest to our listeners, because it could be coming here a very specific thing. Before I do, I wanted to mention two more sponsors of ours: Numana, freeze-dried foods, long-term big portion freeze-dried foods, of course, you go to prepping2.0-com or 2-0.com, and the friends and affiliates link. Use the coupon code PREP, and you get 10% off. And then, of course, Backwoods Home Magazine, great magazine, 6 off. And the number 6 off is the coupon code, and you get $6 off. But with those mentions, I wanted to say this. In Poland, I know that in the 80s there was martial law. And what was that like? I mean, because I'm not saying it's coming here. I mean, it could come here. It's entirely possible. I could see parts of this country, like the cities, the blue Democrat-run cities, having something like that. What was life like under martial law, and what should Americans be thinking about from hearing what you went through?
Yeah, so martial law, I was 12 years old. I remember it like today. It was Sunday, and my parents and my sister and I, we were all together at home, and on comes Jaruzelski on TV and basically declares martial law, saying that due to danger of Poland falling apart and being taken over by Russians, they created a committee to save the Polish nation, and to do so, they decided to institute a martial law. And I'm 12 years old, and I go to my parents, what does that mean? And my dad goes, well, you guys don't have to go to school tomorrow. And so that was a really happy day for us. And yes, there was no school, but also there were personal arm carriers rolled out to the streets, and tanks. And regular police, and Zomo. Zomo is basically motorized police. They were all over the place. And the whole Russian thing, it was an excuse. Just like today we have this COVID thing. It's an excuse to suppress freedom. And that was the excuse to suppress basically movement of people towards freedom. They wanted to kill solidarity. They wanted to kill solidarity. They didn't want people to get more lenience from the government to do more things. They didn't want that. They thought they were going to kill it, but they didn't. Is it similar to what we have in here? Yes and no. The big difference, my friends, is Second Amendment. We did not have it. We could not just pick up, when you were up against the wall and you have to fight back. If you don't have anything to fight back with, or your enemy has advantage over you, that's really tough thought to be in. We do have that advantage here in this country. So I do see that similarity. There is a lot of people that are still free in their spirit, and they want the freedom that America is. But if they do give up Second Amendment, they will. I don't believe they will be able to keep that freedom alive for much longer. And from what you're hearing, progressives or Democrats, or I call them communists. I'm not going to wrap it in the special wrapper. They communists. What they want is to take freedoms away so they can have total control. But I don't see it being done by necessarily by armed force. I see those freedoms being taken away through the means of economy, through money, through debt. If they can enslave us to debt, and a lot of people, have been slowly being enslaved to debt since the beginning of last century, when the Federal Reserve was created, and the money manipulation started. That's how they're going to enslave us. And if we resist with, see, in Poland, people resisted with what they had. It was the sheer force of the numbers. And the difference between Poland and here is people were not divided. There was no left and right. There was no two parties that they could divide people into. There was no black and white they could divide them into. There was no, religious division or anything like that. I mean, here we get divided in from so many different angles. It's incredible. But political it's a big one. They'll divide people left and right, and you pro this and you against this, and that's how they keep people in check against each other rather than against the system. Mm-hmm. Over there, it's the government nation that has everything, and the populace that are just their slaves. And if the slaves stay together and then march together, that's a big force. Even if they don't have, firearms like we do. But here we are so divided that it's a tricky situation. And that can be really, really well manipulated and played against each other rather than against the system. There is not given what system's supposed to give to people.
Yeah.
Preserve their freedoms. That's what governments are all supposed to be, to preserve the freedoms of its citizens.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stop you there, Les, because we only have about a minute left. Did you have a thought? You look like you were going to say something there, Glenn.
No, I was just going to say this, less than about 30 seconds or so before we go into the after show for Patreons, and there's going to be more. We have 16 Patreon questions for Les, and they're amazingly good questions. Les, in like 30 seconds or so, wrap it up. What's your warning to America?
My warning to America and myself, because I'm part of this country, this is my home, is don't look at the differences that they are painting the opposite side of you with. Look at, we just had Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Look at the messages people are putting on social media. They are being grateful for their family. They're being grateful for their home, that they get them roof over their head to sleep under it, for some means to acquire food. They are grateful for those simple, basic things.
And I'm going to stop you right there.
Sorry about that,
We got to stop you right there, Les. And we'll talk about more on the other side, folks. Have a great week and be thankful.
You've been listening to Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher. All the information you've heard today, including all our previous shows, is online at prepping2-0.com. Find out more about Glenn's books at 299days.com and Shelby's books at agreatstate.com. Until next time, be smart, be safe, and be prepared.